Hi, I'm Simon Hope, and I'm going to make a salad bowl for my friend. He has asked me for a salad bowl, so I've chosen to use the MIDI Pro just to sort of show towards its capability and power, to be able to turn such a large bowl. So nice bit of ash. I've put the pulley to the low ratio, which will give us more power, and let's get going. So always turn before you actually switch the lathe on, just to make sure everything's clear. And just bring the speed up slowly to a safe speed. You want to go as fast as you can, but before it starts to vibrate too much. So yeah, we're going up there nicely. It's a very sturdy, heavy lathe, and we're already going about 700 RPM. So let's get that trued. I'm going to use my 1/2 inch bowl gouge. It's got a swept back grind, and I'm going to start by just truing the base. What we have to do next is to try and take the waste element away quite quickly, and then hopefully we can start turning the speed up, and it will make the cutting a lot easier. It's a really hard bit of ash. I'll just stop the lathe before moving the rest. Just want to get closer to the edge there. And I'm not looking at shape to begin with, I'm just looking at taking away this waste material. So we're just starting to do some of the shaping. The cut's not going to be a very clean cut. We're just worried about getting the waste element away before we start doing some more finishing cuts. The gap's too big here now, so we just need to move that round. And again, we're just looking at getting that waste out of the way. So as you start to take that down, you should be able to sort of get the speed going a little bit faster. Just take it down just before the sort of vibration. Let's move the rest and just take that last unbalanced area away. And then we can start concentrating more on the shaping. Good. So now that we've got the top true, it's an ugly shape at the moment, but we need to start back at the base. So we need to set where the spigot or recess, whatever you're going to do first, and then you can start your shape from that area. So because it's quite a large bowl, I'm going to use the sort of bigger jaws. I'm just going to set my verniers across there. I'm going to make a spigot. It's actually 82 mil. And we're just going to transfer that size on, which is there. You don't have to do it this way, you could just use a steel rule, whatever method you use just to mark that out. So I'm going to try and increase the speeds now that we've sort of trued that up a little bit, because it makes things a lot easier. So already we're going up towards sort of 800 RPM, and you should be able to, if not see, hear the difference in how the tool cuts. You can see there's less pressure pushing in. Okay, so let's work a bit more on the shape. And it's just going to be a classic salad bowl shape. Okay, so we're starting to get somewhere to where we need to be. But I need to start thinking about some finishing cuts now, because if I continue with that sort of rough cut, the tear's going to go into the areas that we want to sand up, and that's going to take a long time to get sanded. So we've got our basic sort of shape. I can see that that's the sort of classic shape that I'm after. Obviously there's bumps on there and we need to do a lot of tidying up. What I tend to do is first is just set this area up so it's nice and neat and tidy here, and then we can use the bowl gouge to do some finishing cuts, and we'll show you how to do that. Now I'm just going to use my detail tool just to get into this area like so. Just put a slight dovetail on there so it accepts into the jaws nicely, and then I just do a little bit of sort of shear scraping on here. That just needs a quick sharpen. So what I'm going to do is just sharpen that edge first, then I'm going to flip it around and sharpen that edge last, and it leaves a nice burr on that edge. So let's go to the grinder, you'll see me come back and you'll see the difference once we've got that sharpened. Now we've got that sharpened, we can continue. So I want to do some shear scraping here just to get that tidied up. So with the, you can see the difference, now I have the burr. On the detail tool, and I just work on this area first, just to get that clean. We should be able to get that really nice and clean with some shear scraping. And then we can rest the bevel on there to continue our journey to do a nice finishing cut. So you can see how clean that is with a bit of shear scraping with the detail tool. Quite often what I like to do is just drop down to a smaller bowl gouge, and I like to use the straight grind to do my finishing cuts. So we'll just swap that over to the straight grind, which is on there. And what we're going to do is just get that side bevel rubbing against the wood. See if we can get a bit more speed, not quite. And then just nice and gently engage the cut. Tailstock is just in the way, let's just move that down. So side bevel, engage the cut. Now we're just starting to rest over the rest, just a little bit too much there. I'm just going to stop and move the rest, just so we can finish that last section. So side bevel rubbing, and then we just bring the handle round just to engage the cut. A little bit of pressure with my thumb just to keep the bevel rubbing. But there's no rush, just take your time. And continue it till we gently go off the end. So that was our first finishing cut. And hopefully you can see, you know, there's no tears in the grain, in the end grain. It's a nice clean cut. The only thing we're worried about now is shape. So have I done it perfectly? Not quite. There's a couple of sort of bumps that I could take out. Maybe they would sand out, but that would be quite heavy to do that. So I've got different options. I can go back to the bowl gouge. With practice, I can pick up the cut and just take out those little bumps. But I've also got the option of negative rake tools if I need them. And I will just show you those so you can see the different options. So hopefully you can see the shape's not quite right. There's perhaps a little bump there and maybe there. It just needs a little bit of blending in. So I'm going to use the quick release handle for this and just pop in the negative rate tool. Now this works on the centre line, okay, so you need to raise the rest up so we're actually working on the centre. So we need to come up just a little bit there. That's it, perfect. So that's not too bad. We just want a little bit there and there, I think. Now these work best at a faster speed and they work best horizontal. You don't have to put loads of pressure on there. Literally the weight of the tool's enough to sort of to do the work and to stay on the rest. All you've got to do is just move it round. And I'm just looking at the horizon there and just adjusting the shape just to take out those bumps to get a perfect shape. It's just so easy to do. So just going back, just tickling the surface. I try and sort of finish going in the correct direction. So you can cut downhill like this, but you're best to finish uphill because you're laying the fibres down and you're going to get a better finish from the tool. So I'm really just being picky on the shape. Really want to get that shape spot on. So just a little bump here. We can address that. Just smooths everything over really, really quickly and easily. And you can see that we're actually getting shavings coming off there because of the way it sharpens. It's sharpened down and then up with a little burr on the edge. Please check out the videos on how they work and how you sharpen them. There's plenty of information available on the website. So I'm just going to address this area up here. And nice and gently, we're just going to blend that in. Maybe just a little bit there that just needs touching in. Just a little bit here. Great, that's ready for sanding. So we're just going to set the extraction up and just quickly get it sanded. So my advice would be actually is to just practice with the bowl gouge. You don't have to buy one of these to make bowls, but if you're struggling, it does make the job a lot easier. And it was cutting really nicely, so I just continued using it. But yeah, please practice with the bowl gouge. If you get stuck, you've always got that as an option. So we'll get this sanded up, and then we can carry on with the next stages. I'm going to use my rotary sander. This kit is the 57mm kit, and I have them all marked 1 to 6, so I can just pop each grid in, 1 being 120 down to 6 being 600. Just move that out the way, like so. So let's fire up the extractor and we'll do some sanding. So you have to be careful not to overheat these, and I was just on the limit of sort of overheating it there, I think. But the advantage of just swapping the heads, if I try to pull that off, then I might actually damage the pads. But while it's cooling down, I can just pull that out and pop the next one in. But if you are new to sort of sanding, what you should always do, in my opinion, is stop after the first grit. So you want to make sure that all the marks are out with the first grit. If you go through to sort of 400, 600 and there's still some marks, I know what you'll do. You'll try and sand that out using the finer grits, and all you'll do is just burn the pads out. So you need to make sure any marks are out with the coarsest grit first, then you can go through all the grits very quickly and easily. So the shape is good, there's no marks in there, we had a nice clean cut from the tooling, so we can just continue through the grits. So that sanded out absolutely perfect, down to 600 grit. It's looking really good. Okay, we'll take that off, get it mounted in the chuck, and we'll turn the inside. So I've just taken the faceplate off the other side, and we're going to mount the chuck up now. Normally when I get to do these sort of bigger pieces, what I like to do is just use the chuck and just place it on top. It's easier than trying to sort of hold a big weighted bolt into the chuck. So we can put the weight down flat, just do that pinch tight, and then we can get that on. It's a little bit easier that way. And then just make sure that's nice and tight, and we should be good to go. So I've just mounted that up in the chuck, everything's nice and tight. We'll bring up the rest, make sure nothing's hitting. But the other important thing is that the rest is beneath the surface, so you're reaching up to the centre. Okay, that's really important to get for the tools to work properly. So we just need to lower that just a tad. There you can see we're reaching up to the centre. I will actually use the swept back grinds just to begin with in there, and because we've remounted this, we're going to start with the speed low and build it up to find the correct speed. So nice and gently just bring that up. It's running fairly true, and we're taking it up to about just below 800. I can feel a little bit of vibration there, but we can start at that. So once everything's locked down, we can just start by just truing up this edge. And then I'm going to start from the centre and just work back. So what we're going to do is just start scooping in to the centre, like so. And this is just my little technique. Everybody has their own style. But what I like to do is keep the bevel rubbing when you come back out again. So by doing that, you're starting off at the right angle to go back in. So we just want to take the waste away as quickly as possible. So I'm actually leaving the bit in the centre, and we'll come back to that. Okay, let's just stop and move the rest in a little bit closer. So I just resharpened it. It was also very hot, just taking that initial cut. So it's cooled down now, and we continue. Might be able to get a bit more speed now we've taken some of the weight out. So this centre bit, and it's just the way that I like to do it, I like to come back downhill, because you're pushing all the pressure on towards the chuck. And I think that makes it safer. So we'll continue now scooping and taking the next level out. Oh, the rest is a bit high. We'll just stop the lathe there just to lower that down just a tad. Again, we just want to be slightly leaning up towards the centre, like so. So again, we've got this central bit just to get rid of. So I flip over and come back down here. And we'll just stop, just double check to see how deep we're going, and then we can make our next adjustments for getting towards the end shape.
The shaving loves your tool. They hacked it. Oh, sorry. Yep.
So we want to work out roughly how deep we want to go. What I tend to do is just look over the top so I can see the sort of top and the bottom there, and we can just sort of eye that up, lean over and just sort of measure that. We want to go about 80 mil deep. At the moment we're only about 50. Yep, so we've still got a little way to go in taking the centre out. So we're starting to lean over a bit too much now. So we can move the rest in and we can adjust that to get in, or we could perhaps move to like a curve rest system to help sort of bridge that gap that's in there. So let's just take that out and pop in the curve rest. You can see we've bridged that gap quite nicely, and we can get in there a lot easier.
Can you check if it's really
Tight. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we'll continue. Okay, so we're getting there. Yeah, the shape's pretty good. Might just use my calipers just to check the wall thickness exactly. I don't want it too thin. I want it to be a fairly sort of reasonable sized wall thickness to make it nice and sturdy as a salad bowl. Let's just check how deep we've gone now. Okay, so we're about 68 millimeters. So we've got about another 10 mil to go. So what I would normally do at this stage is start looking at the edge and making sure I get that bit correct and this bit here correct before I make the bottom too thin, in case we get any sort of vibration that we don't want. So I'm just going to work on this rim. There's a little bit of a wax area there, flat spot, so we're just going to get that bit sorted. I want a nice sort of curve in as well. So nice and gently. Just stop and check, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, that's going to stand up nice. And then when we come to do the inside, it's really nice to have a sort of undercut as you sort of start the curve going round. And aesthetically pleasing to do that. It can be quite difficult to put that undercut in, but I'll just show you how we do that. Let's get the rest at the right angle, right height, sorry. Excellent, okay. So when you start, it's really hard to get the right angle at this point. So if you just take your tool to that angle and try to start to cut, it can skip on the edge. I'm sure you've all experienced that. I certainly have. And to get round that, what I found that is, again, if you rub the bevel down there and actually bring the bevel rubbing out, then that kind of puts the tool at the right angle to go back in again, and you're less likely to have a skip across the surface. So bevel rubbing, bring it out and then back in again. Bevel rubbing. I like to set this top area before we can continue down to finish that off. Yeah, that's hopefully you can see that and creates the shadow on the inside and gives a really good effect. So I'm just going to get my bowl calipers and just start measuring that. Okay, so we're here sort of 16 mil, but we're going thicker down. So we need to take more off this area down here. We're off the scale down there. We want to go down to about sort of 12 mil or so, 12 to 15 mil. So we've got more to do. So I'm going to work on this area here. Stop and check that. So we're around about 14 mil here, but as we go down you can see that we're thicker here, 17 mil, 18 mil, so we've got a bit more to take down on this area here. So bevel rubbing, then forward. Feels pretty good. Just a little bit more. It's about a mill's difference between that area there and down there. So we'll just get that correct now, take a little bit more, and then we can just take that centre bit out, and we've pretty much got the shape done then. So yeah, 13. Okay. So we've got the wall thickness the same. All we need to do is concentrate on that area, continue that round to its flat, and then we're pretty much there with the shaping. So again, I might just do the back cut just to take some of the weight away from it. Okay, let's just double check we're right thickness down there. Yeah, 13mm again. So with the right thickness all the way down now, we've just got that last little bit to take out. Now sometimes with this standard grind, it might be difficult to sort of get at the right angle there. So quite often you can use the straight grind, so I'll just swap that over, and you can easily use that as a finishing cut just down in there. Let's just extend that out a little bit. We should be able to get the right angle just to finish that off. Just hitting on that bit there. So we need just a slightly different angle on the bowl gouge just to finish that last little bit off. And for that, what I tend to do is adjust the angle from, normally I have that about 55 degrees, but I might take it to about 60 degrees just for the sort of bottom finishing of bowls. It's a typical problem when you have a really deep bowl. And it's best just to change that angle or have a bowl gouge, especially for that, 60 degrees, and that will allow you to finish the bottom of the bowl off. So let me just quickly sharpen that and we'll do the last finishing cuts. Okay, let's try that. Lovely, okay. Let's check that that's nice and flat across the bottom. Maybe just a tiny little ridge between those two. So what I'm going to do is just pick up the cut on there and just take that down. I could just use a negative rake if I wanted to make that easier, but I can just use the bowl gouge. Okay, that's ready for sanding, so let me get my sanding gear set up and the extraction, and we'll get the inside sanded. So I'm going to use my rotary system just to get the inside of the bowl sanded. Now there is one area that the rotary sander actually doesn't like, and that's the centre of a bowl. So there is a little technique where I sort of flick across the face to keep this spinning, and then you can actually make it sand. You don't have to use one of these, you could just use one in a power drill, but again I just find these quick and easy, and it's what I've got used to, so it's my sort of go-to tool. So let's get the extractor fired up. Just do this part first. So you've got to watch you don't overheat the pads, and they will heat up very, very quickly. We do need to stop and check after the first grit that all the marks are taken out. As I said previously, you can't go through all the grits and then find that you've got a mark, because that won't take it out. You need to take it out with this stage. So there's just a bit of tool mark here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I can just make it out. That part at the bottom's pretty good. Through there. You've got to watch these sort of open grains, because you can sand one area away that's softer and harder in one place, so you've got to be wary of that. But all in all, it's all good. It's just a little bit more needed up on this inside edge. Just turn the speed down a little bit, about sort of 700. Again, always stop and check before you go over to the next grits. But that is looking pretty good. Just again, just that one mark that's there. So just a little bit more on that area. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. So the hard work's done really, just getting it down to a good level, and now it's just a question of going through the grits and getting it sanded down to 600. Okay, perfect. Looking really nice. So we'll take that off. We'll talk about how we finish the bottom, show you how that's done, and then we'll get it oiled up. So I want to take this spigot off. The cheapest way to do it would be to just mount up a scrap piece of wood in here, shape it round, put some tissue or something on there, a bit of foam, bring up the towel stock, and then you can reverse the bowl round enough to turn the bottom off, leaving the central bit, get it all sanded, and you can just carve the last little bit off. But as I'm with KS and I have lots of tools to my disposal, I'm going to use this bit of kit. You can see that this set is too big, but because we've got the MIDI Pro, we can just swivel the head and make it fit. Just a little bit more. Okay, that's good. Lock that down. So how this bit of kit works, it's the Longworth style chuck. You have two plates with some curves routed out, and very, very cleverly, just by twisting them, they can compress down onto your bowl. So the bowl sits in there, you twist it down like so and simply just tighten up the buttons to hold it in place. They're a little bit loose, so we'll just get those pinched tight to begin with, like so, moving that around. Takes just a little bit of time, but it's very, very nice way of reversing the bowls. We're going to turn that away. You see, I'm just taking my time. You can't take too deep a cut with it held in, so you just got to take your time and just get that cleaned up. So I'm just going to apply some food safe oil, at least give it its first coat to soak in. I'm making it for a friend, I hope he likes it. I can always make another one if he doesn't. It's actually a really, really nice bit of ash. It's a nice figure in it. Just making sure it goes into the grain. We always finish with the grain. I've got the bottom to do, so I'll come back and just do this ridge once we've flipped that round. I'm going to use about 3 coats in total. Letting each coat dry at least for a few hours in between. So finish with the grain. So that's what it looks like finished. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope my friend likes it, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.